Hello there, I'm Paul Pigott. I'm a multi-skilled public broadcaster and I want to show you my work first as a video journalist. You can see a big part of Wales's industrial carbon problem right behind me. The Pembrokeshire power plant, the biggest emitter in the UK, behind it the Valero refinery. But you can also see part of the solution. For the first time, an inside look at the police investigation into Jeffrey Tippett. From that first emergency call through to the police interrogation. Intense, dramatic, an insight into the way investigators work.
My wife and I take care of a little boy who's almost a year old.
The first recording played for the jury. The first time the public will hear Jeffrey Tippett's voice. And the first moments of the last hours of little Tamron Rose's life. This survivor of abuse, whose words are spoken by a member of our production team to protect her identity, recalls how difficult it was to end her marriage back in 2015.
We used to joke that the only way out of this was if I was buried under the patio, and I joked with my friends for a long, long time before I'd made the decision to leave, so that was always in the back of your mind.
It smells like coffee, and it is. This fertilizer is compost and coffee grinds from Tim Hortons, and it's growing food right here in St. John's. Nicky Lane showed me an alley where he used to smoke spice.
Everybody was using spice at the time, so it was just it was an easy thing to get hold of. It was quite cheap at the time as well.
But data from police and prosecutors in Wales show fewer arrests and fewer convictions, and official estimates suggest there are still thousands of users. The problem is psychoactive substances are being sold on websites like this one, manufactured in China and delivered to your door with just the click of a mouse. Just in case you were wondering what it looked like from up close, the CBC sent me over the edge as well. First, there was some knocking knees to steady, then Spider-Man for real. The views were great, and in the end, it was all over too soon. Paul Pigott, CBC News, St. John's. There is an alternative to the millions of plastic straws being bought by public bodies in Wales every year. They're paper, and they're made at this plant here in Wales. Transcend Packaging employs 30 people at a factory in Ystrad Mynach. The first day on the job for Kevin Elward, and the first order of business, a meeting with the former leader, Yvonne Jones. Elward will see a lot of this opposition office in the next few months. This is Tim before his MS diagnosis. He hung on to his independence for a decade after that, until last year when his worsening condition forced the former electrician into a care home. Now he's asking Bridge End Council, which is responsible for his care, for another chance to live on his own.
I need to have my independence back, but I've lost it. Just help me.
Fishermen in Port Bay say there's a brazen beluga whale hanging around their lobster traps. They say he's following them around looking to dine on lobsters they throw back. Here now's Paul Pigott has that story.
The lobster fisherman at this haul-out spot says that every morning he comes to check his traps, and pretty much every morning the beluga's there with him. And this morning it's just the same. No sooner does he start hauling up his traps and the beluga's there, first circling from afar, then coming in close to see what the fisherman's doing. Finally, the whale pokes his head out just as the fisherman's throwing back his small lobster. It's a game that's played out daily for fishermen working this bay. Every one of them seems to have a story.
He eats the lobster that we throw over. That's his main source of food, and he don't want to go away because he thinks we're feeding him.
Life changed for former policeman Colin Jones in January when osteoarthritis started to badly affect the joint in his hip.
I had a good quality of life. I was fairly active for my age, I suppose, and all of a sudden that came to nothing. I've got to rely on my wife to do everything for me. I can't walk now without crutches because I've tried it and I've fallen. You can't get down because you feel helpless at times because you don't know where the end is going to come.
Colin's been waiting now for 9 months just to get an appointment with a specialist for a possible hip replacement. And he's worried, as figures show there's been a big rise since March in the number of people waiting for elective surgeries after they were cancelled so the NHS could focus on the coronavirus.
We're going to suspend non-urgent surgical admissions and procedures.
There is a plan to get surgeries going again, but surgeons in specialties like orthopedics say waiting times were a problem even before the pandemic. Now they fear, unless there's a dramatic change, people could be waiting for up to 3 years to get a life-changing procedure.
We've really got to get going with this type of surgery. The problem will grow, and we'll have such a huge number of patients waiting for this type of surgery that it will take a whole generation to recover.
The trial is also significant because of video evidence that was released to the media. CBC News has learned that the province's Judicial Council is now preparing a protocol for future trials so that evidence such as police statements will be available for public scrutiny. The Welsh Government says health boards are working to increase eye care services. But for Helen Jeremy, the coronavirus pandemic has meant the loss of her vision for the rest of her life.
It's too late for me, but let's hope they save other people's eyesight. This is just devastating for me.
Lisa Flavin hopes talking about her experience will help others to see that no one has the right to coerce or control their partner.
Paul Pigott reporting there.
So that's some of my work for suppertime programs on both sides of the Atlantic. But the job's become so much more than just shoot edit. For every one of the stories you've just seen, I'll have done radio and online versions, and more recently, digital videos, like this one that got hundreds of thousands of shares and views for the BBC.
450 years it takes for a mask to decompose. Our descendants, our future, are going to keep seeing these things forever. They'll take things like patient transfer sheets, their curtains, their scrubs, drapes, hair nets, and of course face masks. The temperature of this during the process will go up in excess of 300 degrees for over 25 minutes, which kills all of the pathogens that are released, COVID. It'll even negate anthrax, which is one of the hardest pathogens to kill. The problem is huge. We make 55 million masks a day in the UK, and globally the figure is 129 billion masks, and a lot of those are being discarded into landfill, and a lot of them, as you've seen in all the images around the world, are in waterways, are in seas. It's huge, and it's not just masks, it's all the other products as well. So you see these white bits by here? This is all the masks. So this is all the metal nose pieces of the masks. So this is the proof that goes through. You've got to be careful because it's they're a bit sharp.
It'll be turning the biggest problem that we have in the medical industry with single-use plastic. We'll just be able to keep turning it over and turning it over and using it again. I've created anything from an umbrella to a mask, to a coat, to a set of scrubs, to a football kit, to a polo shirt, to a high visibility jacket. So they're the range of stuff that I've created just to show people what you can make from rubbish. And they're sort of like going to me, what are you talking about? That can't be made of plastic. And I'm saying, well, yeah.
These recycling processes tend to be quite small at the moment. They lack some of the economies of scale, but that will change. As those processes increase in scale, they will get further energy savings, and those can be then quite significant again. So I see it as very much a positive trend.
It's ridiculous. We're just discarding these single-use disposable items. They're not single-use. They're not disposable. They can be recovered, they can be remade, they can be reused multiple times.
So that's the kind of visual journalism I can bring to your newsroom. There are lots more examples online of my print work, and the BBC and CBC archives are full of examples of radio lives and packages. Everywhere I've gone as a reporter in the last 20 years, I've found interesting people, I've got them to tell their stories, and I've uncovered issues that have set the local news agenda. I'll do the same for your newsroom. I can't wait to tell you how. Until then, thanks for watching.